Do you ever have a sense of guilt weighing you down every time you walk away from your child and see their little faces staring back at you?
Have you noticed a shift in your child's behavior when they come home? These were just a few signs that we ignored when our toddler was in daycare.
If your child is in daycare and you're wondering whether this is helping them or hurting them,
this is the episode you need to hear.
Approximately 85% of a child's brain is developed by the age of 3. That stat was alarming to us and awoke something in us we knew had to change.
The common belief is that it's never really been questioned on the fact that after maternity leave is over, you can return to your job, you can put your child in daycare. Everyone does it. Children adjust. Children need to learn how to socialize, right?
Is daycare truly a necessity, or have we convinced ourselves it's out of selfishness and societal pressure? We were told it builds social life skills, but what if it teaches our kids how to actually survive without us?
In this episode, we're drawing from our own daycare journey, sharing the lessons we wish we would have known earlier, to help you recognize your child's subtle signs and begin repairing any cracks in that early foundation. We'll walk you through our top tips for rebuilding that secure bond. So, stick around with us till the end.
We'll also talk about the alternative solutions that your child could be using instead of daycare that will make an immense difference in the future of your child's brain and development. And finally, if daycare is the only option for you, some resources and tips on how to go about it. Before we truly get into the depths of this episode, we do really want to stress the fact that you will have to break some walls down and lower your defenses. Because we were there, we experienced it, and man, is it hard to hear. So just a warning ahead of time. Stick with us. Hey everybody, my name is Mallory, and this is my amazing husband, Tom.
Hi.
We both grew up in unconventional, broken homes with challenging environments. So drowning in the parent lies that society has sold us, we have no other option but to question the norms and question parenting styles in general. We are the Raw Parenting Podcast, growing as parents through real and deep conversations in order to raise healthier children.
So there's 3 points. Number 1 is how an emotionally stable child handles detachment versus an unstable child. And this is why daycare can be so dangerous for insecure, a detached child.
And point number 2 is going to be talking about signs that we ignored in our toddler, especially since she was in daycare, and also the signs that we ignored within ourselves.
Right. So the last point is point number 3. We're going to be talking about options for parents who are struggling with the guilt and or need daycare still. This really flows well with our, next point, which is like, we get it. We get that not everybody can make this work. There is daycare for a reason, and we were fortunate enough to pull our out of daycare, but we understand how hard the world is with finances. Not everybody has parents around them or a support group. So we really sympathize with, the single moms or the parents who are trying to just make it work and pay the bills. But we do realize that some can do it. And I feel like if you see the flaws in daycare and you see the reason we are trying to explain to you with this video, I think some people can make this work.
Yeah, and it really just depends on your lifestyle already. If you can make some subtle changes or some slightly bigger changes as well, I think it could be really beneficial, which you will understand as well later on when we talk further.
Yeah, and the reason why we pull ours out of daycare is because we really saw a lot of things in her that we didn't like when she was in daycare. And when she was out of daycare, those couple days out of the days, she was acting a lot more freely. She was less stressed. You can tell her anxieties were a lot lower.
So basically with the signs of our toddler, we had her in daycare 3 days a week, and they weren't even full days. But during those days, we definitely noticed a shift in her personality, I would say. And we didn't really think much of it. We just thought it was more like she's adjusting to this new environment, all of these changes. And when we realized that they were consistently the same every time she came back versus the days that she wasn't in daycare, I think that's when we really started to notice something and actually start to look at those signs. And then we also had to start looking at the signs of like ourselves as well. So it was a big step for us, I think, to pull her.
Yeah, let's get into the first point then.
So let's start off by explaining what an emotionally secure child does look like. And then we'll go into more of what an unsecure child would act like as well for the signs. So basically they seek comfort and they can calm quietly. So even though they still have outbursts, which a toddler is obviously going to have. So basically when a child is upset, do they come to you when they're upset? And when they do come to you, do they settle easier? That is more of a secured child. So basically that indicates that they can trust that they're in a safe space.
And secure children know that their emotions are safe with you. And so a secure child doesn't avoid help. They run towards connection and bounce back faster because of it. Another example of a secure child explores confidently, but checks in with you. You are their emotional home base. They're not clingy, but they are connected.
So young children, they explore and they come back to you often. So that's not an indication of a clingy child. It's more of a connected child. So if your toddler looks back at you every few minutes while they're playing, it's not because that they're needy, it's because they know that they can depend on you.
A secure child doesn't avoid help. They run towards connection and bounce back faster because of it.
So point number 3 is they will express emotions and not just act them out. So secure kids obviously will cry. They'll still talk. They'll sulk. They're laughing. They don't hide everything or explode frequently, but basically they're learning how to express rather than suppress. It's not about being calm all the time. It's about knowing they're allowed to feel and that you're there when it's too big to handle alone. So basically that sums up what a secure child would look like. So naturally an unsecure child would be the complete opposite of those traits. So basically they are more clingy. They will have emotional outbursts way more frequently. They will be shutting down also because they don't have that trust built with their parents.
Right. And we thought our toddler was fine until we learned what an emotionally stable child looks like. And the truth hit us pretty hard because that wasn't our child.
So again, we'll talk about why some parents do need daycare, and we'll even share tips in that position for people who are listening. So if your child is showing any of these signs, you might be missing them too. So let's get into it. So basically, as we had expressed a bit previously, so signs that our toddler had was very much the tantrums, and they were more frequent when she would come home from daycare.
And man, those tantrums were so extreme. I remember we would pick her up back from daycare, bring her home, and within usually 5 to 10 minutes of getting home, she's already melting down. And I'm talking about like a full-blown meltdown. And it's very interesting because on the car ride home, she seems fine. But as soon as she sees you or me, which usually I think she sees you most of the time because you're home, and she would just break down. She's on the floor, tears coming down her face. She's stomping on the ground. She's just doing all these extra things.
Yeah.
And we just thought it was normal. It was one of those things. We expect it. And so we kind of like, okay, just let her do her thing.
Yeah. And we would just let her flail on the floor because we didn't know what else to do. And also, she wouldn't let you pick her up because as soon as you got close to her, she would start hitting you.
Yes.
And I'm like, I ain't taking no abuse from a 2.5-year-old.
Yeah, there's nothing much you can do.
But yeah, it was really, really tough. And
Yeah.
it was really hard on us. And of course, that's where guilt started, also coming in, which we have talked about in one of our previous videos about that guilt, right?
Yeah.
So if you are watching and haven't seen that video, you should definitely click the link.
And it's one of those terms that people do use, right? It's called daycare fatigue. And so it's one of those things when kids go to daycare for a long period of time, they come home and they just feel all that energy that they don't have anymore.
Right. And so, of course, naturally, we said it was just, something that she needed to adjust to because of the daycare change. And, she had other changes in her life, like a new sibling, and she switched her beds and stuff. So those are other factors that we didn't really necessarily account for. But the daycare thing, it was very much like she's adjusting. Just give her some time. So not only were the tantrums happening after we picked her up and brought her home, they were also briefly starting to manifest while we were in the process of getting her to daycare. So at one point we literally changed the word daycare to school to make it sound more enticing for her because she loves learning, right? So we're like, it's school, it's like learning, it's fun, and just a way to get her to go.
And she had a bunch of books that was about like Bearstein Bears going to school, so it was like, just like Bearstein Bears, you're going to school as well.
Exactly, which we also learned that Bearstein Bears is a little too advanced for her, but that's besides the point. Yeah. But yeah, getting her into the car, it was a struggle. Like we really had to I don't want to be forceful with the girl, but we really had to okay, we need to get your shoes on, and just trying to get her out the door. And she was just not having it. She was screaming and crying. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. And
Yeah.
so we're
Yeah.
just like, oh my gosh. And then when she would get there, you really had to like talk her up. You're like, it's
Yeah.
okay. And like, let's go.
Yeah.
And she would be immediately clinging to you and like really sad that you were leaving. Like, and again, we just thought it was normal,
Yeah.
right? We're like,
Yeah.
every kid goes through this.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be fine. Like, it just takes a couple more weeks. And yeah, like you said, we always have to like hype her up. Be like, oh, your friend blah 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 is gonna be there. You know, Jack's gonna be there. This and that. And so yeah, it was I don't know. It was never easy. It was never like where we had this really good feeling about dropping off daycare. It was
Yeah.
always just like, oh man, daycare. It's
Yeah.
like, ah, dang, it's Monday again, kind of thing.
Yeah. And I remember being like, are you taking her today?
Yeah, yeah. It was
Because
always
like
like, are you
neither of
there?
us wanted to take her because it was so sad.
Another sign that we ignored was that she started waking up multiple times during the night. And we just thought, oh, you know, she's going through nightmares, she's developing these dreams and all that stuff. And so, yeah, we blamed it on that.
So yeah, multiple times. Like at first it started out with like 1 or 2 times and then it started getting progressively worse. Like we're talking about 3, 4, 5. One time it was 10 times at night and we were just so baffled. Like what is this? And we again just thought she was just adjusting to a new environment and things were just lots of changes for her and we were just, and then trying to just ignore it really. Like it'll get better. And these are just nightmares. And I do think that she was developing nightmares at the time. Like I do think there was part of that. But then I think she started understanding that once we said nightmares, she could use that as like every time. Like I had a nightmare. I'm like, how you just went back to sleep for like 2 minutes and now you're saying you have another nightmare. So there was a lot of confusion there for sure. And basically anytime she was away from us, whether, and by that we mean like at a grandparent's house or, that's basically it, right?
Yeah.
She was never away from us with anybody else.
No.
Or yeah. Anyways, so anytime she was away from us, she would have these severe meltdowns. So when we would drop her off at your mom's and leave for a couple hours, like immediate meltdown. And it took forever for her to calm down. She was very, very clingy. And every time we would go somewhere, she would say, I want to go home. I want to be home. I don't want to go anywhere. And we're like, what is this? Like,
Yeah.
where is this coming from? Like,
And again,
you're just
just
going to your grandparents. Like,
Yeah.
it's so weird.
Just a lot of like, again, like insecure, attachments that we just don't know where it came from. And we thought it was her, but
We just thought it was her personality, right?
like this is just the way she is. And, but yeah, we realized, no, like we actually had a lot to do with this.
Yeah.
And we can fix this. So for those other parents who are wondering what are some additional signs that my child might be experiencing with insecure attachment, here's some additional signs.
Okay, so obviously we mentioned the clinginess, the tantrums, the changes in sleep patterns, outbursts, things like that. But there's also like negative self-talk or withdrawals, resistances, or regression in skills. Like those are all additional signs, I would say.
Nice. And so,
Like,
so here are some signs that we ignored within ourselves. Every time I dropped out daycare, there was always a tremendous amount of guilt, and I just didn't know why.
there was lots of signs within the daycare itself that we were like, I don't know. There was lack of information. The size of the place was questionable for how many kids they had, even though it was government granted that she could have this daycare. It was kind of like a daycare home, but also daycare size, if that makes sense. It was kind of a weird situation, right? And then also just, the turnover rate within the employees there, we noticed. It was like there was someone new every week, it felt like. And I think the kicking point for us was we had specifically not wanted any male caregivers for our child. And she had indicated that that was never really going to be the case.
Yeah,
and
from
so,
the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think one of the very end final deterring factors for us was the fact that there was a male trainer coming in, and we were like, we just don't feel comfortable with a male looking after our daughter.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's just our own personal preferences. Not everyone is obviously going to feel those things, but
Yeah.
there was lots of signs that we just, again, ignored, and feeling guilty, of course, like you mentioned, that was a huge thing. And we just didn't know why. We thought it was just a natural response to something that you had to do.
Yeah, exactly. We felt like we had no solutions. Another sign previous before that was that she got injured, and we didn't even find out until we picked her up, and there was like blood all over her shirts, and there was just not even like a text, a call, like, hey, when you pick her up, she's gonna look like this. So
Yeah, it was pretty weird. Yeah, as soon as I showed up, she was like, "Oh, by the way, like she just had like this little fall,
and just
and we changed
blood.
her shirt, and so it's just in the backpack."
Yeah.
And then when we took the shirt out, you're like, "Oh
Oh
my
my
gosh!" And we're like, "What
MG.
the
Did she get
frick?"
punched in the face? Like,
Yeah. And there was also indications of slight bullying that we had, obviously understanding that from a 2.5-year-old's perspective. So we weren't 100% sure what was actually going on.
mm-hmm.
And when we talked to the daycare owner or whatever you want to call her, it was just very much like, oh no, like I don't see that happening. But like, I'll definitely let all the other caretakers know about it, and which was fine. But also, it's like, for the small environment that she's in, you'd think that someone would have noticed something, and that would have been communication to us. And we've also heard of other daycares providing photos and like updates and stuff. And we did get that at first, and then it just kind of dropped off.
Yeah.
So, anyways, just a few things that we were like, ugh, this doesn't feel right. And we were really uncomfortable, and it just, more things just kept happening. And we're like, we just can't anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So as a parent out there, don't ignore these signs, like really remember these little things and either have a journal and just write it down somewhere, but really be really aware of these signs.
and also for parents that are listening now, we do actually have a free download for you if you are interested in things that you should be looking for in a high-end daycare. And you can find that at our website at www.rawparentingpodcast.com. So obviously all those things about the daycare, we also had some signs that we ignored based on her behaviors as well that we did ignore. Like the tantrums when she was home, we ignored those kind of things, and like the sleep regressions and all of those things. We didn't realize were linked to those aspects, but after doing some digging within ourselves and like the ignoring that we were doing, we're like, whoa, no, those were clear indications that she was not an emotionally attached child.
We hope whoever's watching stay to the very end. We're now going to be go over some real life examples that we've come across where parents are making bold, life-changing choices for their kids. Their decisions might inspire you or inspire you to make your own choices.
So before we actually get into those stories, let's talk about some changes that a parent is like, yeah, I'm really excited about this. I want to make changes, but where do I start? So let's go over some of those options for people.
Okay, sounds good. It's kind of funny because we ourselves, when we're just driving and this conversation popped up, like how much money do we actually need to survive per month? And I think our bottom line cost was about $3,000
A month.
a month. And so I think we said that, if we got a job that makes about $50,000 to $60,000 per year, with one of us working, we could technically provide for the family.
That would be for 3 kids and 2 adults, right?
Yes.
And so obviously things might be different for other people, and obviously living in Canada too.
Yeah.
So obviously that stuff is all going to be dependent on where you live and how many kids you have. But yes, bottom line is, if we moved back into our townhouse and had one of us working, we could technically survive off of $60,000 income without savings or this and that, obviously give or take. So again, realistically, it's not something that you would necessarily want to do, but it is possible.
Yeah. So maybe discuss your partner about, like, okay, again, let's really break it down. How much money do we actually need? And do both of us need to take on this job?
Exactly. Yeah. It's definitely having an open conversation with your partner. Step number 1, I would say. We also have a recommendation of reading the book by Dr. Erica Komisar, which is Being There, and why prioritizing motherhood in the first 3 years is a really profound book, I would say, and it's what opened our eyes to a lot of things. So we highly recommend that book.
Yeah, it's life-changing, but only if you're ready to be open-minded and hear it, because your feelings are going to get hurt.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. To put it lightly, your feelings are going to get really hurt.
Yes. Okay, so here, what about the parents who still want some sort of care, but they don't want to go to daycare now?
Right. So options would obviously be, the best case would be a family member, right? You definitely want somebody that's going to be in their lives consistently throughout time, is kind of like what the recommendation is. And so if you could have a grandparent or like an aunt or an uncle, somebody like that who can actually come in and help out, that would be best case scenario.
Right. And the main thing that you mentioned is someone who is going to be there throughout their life, not just be there for a year or two and be disappeared.
Right. And so another option, especially for like single moms out there, you know, like shared care is something that is mentioned, especially in Dr. Erica's book. But shared care is basically you and some friends, you know, get together and you basically share a nanny of sorts, right? And so that would look like one caregiver to maybe, depending on how many friends you get, but like 3 kids. And so you guys share that cost of that nanny and get them in the same location at the same time, right? So that would be shared care, which is also more beneficial for your child because, again, it's 3 kids to 1 adult versus daycares who are 1 adult to 8, 9 sometimes children.
Right.
So there's a
Right.
huge difference there. And again, with a nanny, you definitely want to look for certain signs and things like that. You definitely want to ask intense questions to nannies and also somebody that you would hope would love your child as much as you do. It's not always possible and it's not really going to be realistic, but something to look for. And in Being Erica,
Being Erica.
oh, such a good show. In Dr. Erica's book, Being There, she actually gives some great ideas at the end of her book of things that you should ask a caregiver.
Okay, sounds good. Now, what about if for those parents or parent out there who wants to get rid of daycare completely?
So to get rid of it completely, obviously you have to reevaluate your lifestyle. And that's just bottom line, right? You're going to have to reevaluate your living situation, reevaluate what kind of expenses you have. So I don't know, that's just putting it lightly, but yeah, that's your only option, really. Okay, so let's talk about those real life examples that we have. So number 1 would be one of our friends who is kind of more of a recent single mom, I would say. She literally reevaluated her job because her company was not willing to work with her when she was ready to come back from maternity leave. They were not willing to accustom her work schedule to fit her needs to be with her son more. And so she ended up quitting that job and finding a new job that was willing to work with her and have better hours so that she could accommodate and prioritize her son,
Wow.
which is amazing.
Yeah, what a great mom to do that for your child and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
if your company can't do that, like, man, there's other companies out there
Who are willing to. And I mean, the unfortunate thing with the company that she was at, you know, she put in a lot of years in there and they just lost a really good employee over something so minute, really. You know?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I guess for other parents out there, obviously, if your company isn't willing to work for you, maybe work with you, maybe you need to look into some remote jobs. Like those are also really good options. Or again, just looking at different companies that in itself. Yeah.
Okay, and then we have another friend who she is a full-time stay-at-home mom. And
Basically stays at home and her husband works and they try to keep their expenses as low as possible so that they can have her stay at home.
And then we have another friend. She's a full-time stay-at-home mom. Her husband works. And they basically try to keep their expenses to basically what we talk about, just to the bare minimum so that, she can stay at home full-time and be a full-time mom. And, the husband goes on work, which is great as well. Mm-hmm. It's another option. Yeah,
and it's just making those sacrifices now while your children are young. And that's like a lot of the things that our friends are actually trying to do is keeping those expenses low so that they can spend those quality years with their young kids. Yeah. And I think that that's really, really special. And that's something, again, that a lot of people don't understand necessarily is you're not giving up life fully. You're just making some sacrifices now for the first few years of your children's life, which are the most important years of their life because they're developing, right? So, we really admire that in a lot of our friends that we have when they make major sacrifices like that. Yeah. And then lastly, we have another friend. They basically, her and her husband work and they both work part-time, which will equate to a full-time income. And so that's how they're doing it. And obviously when one's at work, the other's at home with the son and vice versa. So, so these are some of the examples that we give them with our real friends who are making it work without daycare. Exactly. Yeah. And again, like you said, they all have the same priorities as we do, whereas family comes first. Thank you so much for listening, guys. That's the end of this video. It's not about being perfect parents, but it's about being present ones. So thanks for sticking around.